This week's map review is on Elmcreek, one of the base maps and another of the beginner maps. Obviously last week we covered Hewitt Belleron. This map is different in it's much more open. It has much nicer and wider roads with less obstacles to actually get stuck on. So if you're trying to get used to maneuvering bigger machinery especially, this is perfect. However, it has an interesting blend of large and small maps, and in my opinion, it is a little bit bland. But here we are then. This is Elmcreek in all of its glory in the map view. As you can see, there is a train, there is an animal dealer, there is lots of forest land, and there is a hell of a lot of fields of all different varying shapes and sizes. This is a little bit different to Hewitt Belleron in that you start getting more curved areas and it starts introducing you to the different sort of style of field that you can get. Some of them having very straight edges and some of them like 58 and 38 where you get the curved lines down here. 57 especially is very curved, and then 11 is very rounded as well. So that's a nice introduction to allow you to get used to how to sort of farm, cultivate and do arable farming on these odd shaped fields. But when you're ready to go into the more modded maps with the more natural sort of lines, if you like. Lots of land that you can buy. You've got a numerous really good starting points. You can either start buying some of these fields down here near where the shop is, if we zoom in a little bit. Or you can buy this plot of land, which is the one I did, gives you 3 fields for, I think it was 250 grand was how much this one was. If we go to farmland, we can see 156, so I was way off. Whilst this is a good starting point, the better starting point is field or plot 40 up here, which gives you access to 3 pieces of land and your farmhouse, so you don't have to buy a farmhouse to rest on. It's a little bit out of the way from pretty much everywhere. I don't know why they decided to put the farmhouse all the way up in this top corner, but they would be your 2 starting fields to look for. This is the one that's 260,000. This one is the cheaper at 150. But if you're starting on Farm Manager, which gives you 1.5 million, you can easily buy both plots of land, and then you've got a nice barn area to store all your equipment, and you also have the farmhouse. Needless to say, I did not do that, but that's beside the point. So overall, it's a very well laid out map. You've got your animal dealer over here. As I've said before, you get your train and everything. This leads to a lot of contracts, which we'll get into. Some of them pay well, some of them not so much. Overall, from this bit, I like it. I like the layout. I think for a beginner map, it is fantastic. Alright, so we've got our little plot of land here. As you can see, I've got some equipment. I did have to buy the cheapest sleeping accommodation, which you get from the Platinum expansion for 17,500. If you don't have the farmhouse, but you want somewhere that you can speed time up, and you don't have the Platinum expansion, you're going to be looking at 20 grand for the caravan. But either way, and then I've got my 3 fields. This is just a piece of land that has been fertilized and is ready to go. We've got our sunflowers over here on field 45, and then over here on field 46, we've got corn. So we've got corn, sunflowers, and nothing on the field, which is fair. They're very small fields, so you're not going to make a lot of money from them, which is annoying because you're either going to have to lease the equipment out at a loss or buy the equipment and hope that you get the contracts to make it worthwhile. I bought the equipment because I've had quite a few harvesting contracts already, but I am going to need to get the new header at some point. What about the rest of the map though? We're in the Case IH as we're going to go for a little tour. It is very easy to get everywhere, but it is also very easy to get lost because the map has quite a few little inlets and roads and things that make it a little bit awkward to navigate. But once you get the main road down, you're pretty much sorted. This sort of area is very pretty. It's obviously a very Americanized map with the road. You do get traffic, but not a lot of it. You get some very interesting bridges and things to go across, but on the whole, it's very much like this. It's just road, sort of wasteland with a few buildings putted about and the train. Like, it's not the best map to sort of look at visually, whereas Hewitt Belleron is very, very pretty. Harder to navigate, but much prettier to look at, and I think that's why I like Hewitt Belleron a bit more than Elmcreek. Functionally, practically, Elmcreek is a fantastic map, like I've said, for beginners. Just for me, it's sort of... it's just lacking a bit of character. It's a bit beige. When you get into your fields, it does change up a little bit, especially with how many fields there actually are. On Hewitt-Belleron, for example, there's only like 49 fields, whereas on here we're all the way into the 80s, the 90s. So there's a lot more sort of arable farming that you can do, not to mention the plots of land with the trees for you to do logging towards the north of the map. There are some really interesting buildings around in certain areas. They're just a bit too sporadic for me personally. There's... Hewitt-Belleron is a town, right? And it has that town feel. It has that life feel going on for it. Whereas this just feels a bit deserted because it's all farmland. Even the bits of farmland that aren't farmland are still kind of farmland. It's just land. There's no real sense of a town or a living community. There is built up areas and there are factories, and when you go down towards the shop and stuff, it does get a bit more, but it's still, to me at least, it's very empty. And that could just be me, it could just be a subjective thing. It is just a subjective thing, but I just wish that it was a bit more lively. You know, I just wish there was a little bit more, like, in all these greenlands, why not put a few more houses? Just make it feel a bit more lively. And I know I keep repeating that phrase, but it's the best way that I can think of to describe it. Functionally as a map, I love it. I think functionally as a map, there's lots to do. There's lots to keep you sort of going. There's... you know, there's tons of contracts to do. The amount of contracts you get on this game are insane, especially on this map. Like, I've been doing nothing but contracts since I have started playing, and they're still coming. They're still going on. Obviously, I don't have the Better Contracts mod because on TikTok I play multiplayer, and the Better Contracts mod is a bit awkward sometimes with trying to get multiplayer, so I just don't use it. But for single player, I would very, very highly recommend using the Better Contracts mod, just so you can keep in touch with everything. The other problem with this map is because it is quite big and it is quite barren, it can feel like a long time to get to certain fields. I mean, I'm going 53 kilometers per hour, which is, you know, pretty quick in a tractor, but it still feels like it takes me absolutely ages to get to where I'm going because of the scale and because of how empty it is. Going from the middle part of the map to the top part of the map, there's just nothing here, just freeway, and it makes it feel like it goes on forever. So overall, my final arching sort of comment on this map is that it is great for beginner players, but I can see them getting bored, not because of the tasks to do, but because the map itself is kind of boring and beige to travel around and work on. Let me know in those comments down below if you agree or disagree with my sentiments. Please do tell me why you disagree if you do disagree, and I will see you all next time. Ciao, ciao.